I'm excited to welcome to the stage our next speaker. You guys have heard him throughout the day on and off the stage. But if you guys will please join me in giving a very Spur welcome to our founder, Mac Richard.
Man, have a seat. I don't know who was responsible for the order of speakers, but to have to follow Jenna, Carly, Sebastian. Hey, and real quick, I want to say a massive thank you to our breakout speakers, Brent Couch and Darren K. Roberts. Thank them so much for doing what they did. That's kind of a new wrinkle for us in the Spur Leadership Conference, but you know, it's really, what an incredible day. I'm so grateful to all of our speakers and for their time and especially for Jenna and Sebastian being here sick, Carly coming from across the country. For them to invest in us like they did means a great deal to us, and it's something that I think is really important. What's funny to me is how different their stories and their backgrounds are, but how complementary their talks were. How they speak toward the same thing. They kind of all arrive at the same place, coming from different directions, which to me is really fascinating. And for those of you who are corporate leaders and business leaders, this down here is our church amen corner. These are our pastoral leaders. So that's why they're yelling and hooping and hollering. So thank y'all. Help a brother out. But it's been just an incredible day. I want to take just a little bit of time and kind of put a bow on the day, if you will. I think that what I want to talk about is really, I think, a pretty decent synopsis of what we've heard so far. And that is the fact that we need each other. That no matter what you do, no matter where you go. I loved what Carly said earlier, that no one has ever accomplished anything by themselves of real value, of real lasting value. So I think when you think about leadership, when you think about influence, when you think about positions of responsibility, there really is a connective tissue that binds all of that together. And that's what I want to talk to you about a little bit today. I'm talking about trust. Trust is the currency of leadership. Whatever you do, wherever you go, it really comes down to trust. And Spur Leadership was born really out of this idea of trust. The Bible, for those of us who are Christians, the Bible says, let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. Now, in the marketplace, you can't walk around telling people, man, I love you. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. You don't want to go there. But you absolutely need to communicate that you value those people, that you like them, that you're in favor of them on a regular basis. And I think another way of looking at trust is through the lens, maybe not of love and good deeds, but of community and accountability. That every community requires accountability, and we all kind of know that intuitively. But one of the things that I've learned a lot over and over again is that real accountability requires community. Like we are only accountable to the people that we really and truly trust. So it takes both community and accountability, love and good deeds. This kind of crystallized for me in all places of New Orleans. I don't know, what your culinary background might be, but I just want to ask you a kind of a non-scientific survey question. How many of you know that a meal can be a spiritual experience? Can I just see a show of hands? If you know, kind of like the one that we had today provided by Verdes. Can we just give it up for Verdes? Man, incredible. But our family had one of those kind of spiritual experiences in New Orleans a couple of years ago. Our son Joe is getting ready to graduate from Clemson University, which means, yeah, amen. But that means that every year that Joe has been in college, he has witnessed his school make it at least to the Final Four of the college football playoffs. He doesn't know any different. He just thinks that's what you do when you go to college. And I'm kind of like, Joe, as a Texas Longhorn, believe me, that is not normal. I told him, I was taking him back to the airport last year, and I said, Joe, you know, at some point during your college career, Clemson's probably not going to play for the national championship. He looked back at me across the cab of my truck and dead serious. He just said, why would you say that? Like it never even crossed his mind that that was not going to happen. But on this particular New Year's Eve, we were in New Orleans to watch Clemson play the Death Star, Alabama. And we were in town for the game, and the game did not go the way God wanted it to. But the night before the game, we had this meal at a restaurant down in the French Quarter. It's called K. Paul's Louisiana Kitchen. Now, Paul Prudhomme was a legendary, iconic New Orleans chef for years and years and years. He passed away, sadly, just a couple of years ago. But his namesake restaurant lives on there in the French Quarter, and it is one of those kind of spiritual dining experiences. And Chef Paul was known for kind of perfecting and popularizing a brand of Cajun cooking called blackening. He would blacken redfish, blacken beef fillet, blacken chicken, whatever it might be. And that doesn't mean that he charred it, but that means that the way he would spice the meat and then cook it in a cast iron skillet gave it this kind of blackened patina that just is unbelievable to taste. And I'd never been to K. Paul's Louisiana Kitchen before, and so our waitress, who was phenomenal, was making her way around the table, taking everyone's order, and I just decided, you know, since I was in the Big Easy, it was New Year's Eve, I'm gonna ask the expert, what would you order here? I looked at the menu, I said, let me ask you a question. I'm gonna do something blackened, because that's what y'all are known for, but would you go with the blackened beef fillet or the blackened redfish? And with this real deep, thick Cajun Louisiana accent, she goes, oh, darling, you ain't got to choose, you at K. Paul's. Do the both. We're gonna do the both, baby. We're gonna give you the surf and turf. Do the both. And I will tell you that her advice was dead right. It was a meal of biblical proportions. It was unbelievable. A blessing that I will carry with me throughout eternity. But what she said in that moment to do the both has stuck with me ever since, because I believe with everything that I have, leadership is absolutely a do to both, surf and turf. You absolutely must care about those you lead, love, and community, while also doing actual good work, actual good deeds, and producing at a level that makes a contribution to other people, and particularly in the marketplace, a contribution that they'll pay you for. Somebody should have shouted amen at that point. And here's the thing. Money is not a reason to get up and go every day. It's not. That will fade. But by the same token, you cannot ignore the financial impact of your contribution. You ought to be able to be providing something so valuable that is so helpful to other people that they will actually pay you for it. And that's not a bad thing. That's not an unreligious or unspiritual kind of a thing. But to get back to this idea of trust, I think it's really important that we understand this is how we lead. Trust is the currency of leadership. If you're leading people, man, they better be trusting you. We have a saying around our household, but also around our church. And I think Carly Fiorina alluded to it beautifully earlier today. The way we phrase it is this: do the right thing and let the chips fall where they may. Do the right thing and let the chips fall where they may. Now, I know that a lot of us work in really, really tough, competitive environments. And probably with this many people in the room, somebody right now is thinking, at least silently, yeah, okay, let's talk about trust, preacher boy. I understand you work at a church, but man, I live in the real world. I live in a dog-eat-dog, shark-infested environment. If I go around trying to be all trusty, I'm going to get my lunch eaten. And I want to just suggest to you for a second that, first of all, I get it. I don't work in an environment like that. I work with some phenomenal people, many of whom have sacrificed and worked and served to make today possible and to make it happen. So, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. But I want to just suggest to you that maybe trust is not something to throw out because of the competitive environment or the dog-eat-dog world that you live in. That actually trust may be the greatest strategic advantage of your life. That to build trust with your employees or your coworkers or your bosses or your competitors and clients can be the single greatest competitive advantage that you will ever have. Let me ask you a question. How many of you, or does anybody familiar with the name Marcelo Garcia? Has anybody ever heard the name Marcelo Garcia? Not a single hand, one person, and she's not even sure about it. Marcelo Garcia is by, not a household name, but he is by all accounts the single greatest practitioner on the planet of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This is what he does. He is unbelievable. And a few months ago, I had the opportunity to actually meet Marcelo Garcia. I'm not a jiu-jitsu guy. I have never rolled in my life. But I was in New York City with a really good friend of mine who is into jiu-jitsu, and he said, Mac, I want to go to Marcelo's dojo. I was like, what? He goes, I want to go to the dojo where Marcelo Garcia teaches jiu-jitsu. I was like, all right, great. I'm in New York, let's go. And we got there about 9:30 in the morning, and we're kind of walking around, and it's in this upstairs studio kind of office building in Manhattan, and it's wall-to-wall padding on the floor for jiu-jitsu. And so we walked in, and everybody else is in jiu-jitsu wear. They call it the gi, or like rash guards or whatever. And Ben and I just walked in street clothes, and we were kind of standing out. We walk into this dojo, and we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, my friend who's really into jiu-jitsu kind of got, I could tell he kind of got a little amped up. He goes, Mac, there he is. I go, who? He goes, Marcelo Garcia. He said that like Elvis had walked in the building. I said, man, oh, great. He goes, man, I want to meet him. And then Ben's an old guy. I'm not talking about like a 14-year-old friend of mine. Ben's a 50-something-year-old dude. And all of a sudden, Marcelo came over to us. Somebody had told him there are these crazy guys from Texas who came just to see what you do. And he walked over to us. He was the most gracious, humble guy I have ever met in my life. He walked over, and he, in this really thick Brazilian accent, which I won't try to imitate, he was like, thank you so much for coming. It is an honor to have you in our gym today. What brings you here? And my friend started explaining that he's into jiu-jitsu, and he knew who he was and just wanted to just kind of soak up the air that he was breathing. And he was so gracious. But in the back of my mind, there was a little antenna kind of going off, like going, this guy could kill you. Now, he's nice, but he could kill you. And what I learned is that jiu-jitsu as a martial art is based upon the premise that a smaller, lighter fighter can leverage the perceived advantages of somebody who's bigger, stronger, faster against that bigger, stronger, faster opponent and use jiu-jitsu to conquer their opponent. Trust is emotional, personal, professional, relational jiu-jitsu. A lot of people think that if you're going to be somebody of integrity, somebody of ethics, that you're going to be starting at an automatic disadvantage. I would suggest to you that you actually have a leg up on the competition because you're competing at a level they don't even know there's a game going on. So trust is one of those things that the more you develop, the more you create, the more people rely on you, and your influence, maybe not your title, maybe not even your bank account, but your influence expands all the while. Brene Brown is a sociologist who I know many of you have heard and know. She's become Oprah's best friend. She's a best-selling author. And Brene Brown says that trust in any relationship, parent-child, co-worker, marketplace, whatever, trust in any relationship is built brick by brick. It's kind of like putting marbles in a jar, and every interaction, every single conversation, text, email, exchange, meeting is an opportunity to put more trust marbles in the jar. But the fact of the matter is that we can also crash the jar. We can also destroy the jar in one fell swoop. How many of you know that trust, while it is the glue that binds us together, can also be a very, very fragile thing? The fact of the matter is we can destroy trust. We all understand what it's like to have our trust broken. And just by way of a quick little survey, how many of us in the room, let's say in the last 24 months, how many of us in the room in the last 24 months have experienced some form of betrayal? Look, can I just say, just raise your hand if you don't mind. Okay, wait, hold your hands up for just a second. I want to show you something. Look around the room. Look around the room. Is that great? Not that you got betrayed, but that it's universal. There is nobody, say nobody. There is nobody who hasn't been betrayed. And so the question becomes, how do we get past that? How do we move beyond the pain? Because let's be honest, there's no pain like betrayal. There's no emotional scar deeper or more profound than somebody that you have trusted violating that trust. That goes to the core of who we are. But when we choose to let that go, when we choose to forgive that other person, keep in mind, forgiveness is not something you do for the other person. You know what I'm saying? And this is not a sermon. This is just a life observation. Forgiveness is something that you give to yourself because you let go of the offense. You let go of the anger. You let go of the bitterness. Isn't it true that sometimes, let's be honest, we're spurring the horse to the barn at the end of the day. So let's just cut to the chase. Sometimes it's fun to hold a grudge. Does anybody feel that way? Sometimes you just want to hang on to a really good mad. You know what I'm talking about? And listen, I get it. Believe me, I have been there long, long time ago. But when you finally decide to let go of the offense, to let go of the hurt, you make the conscious choice to not allow the wrong. And the wrong is real. I'm not minimizing the wrong. But you choose to not let the wrong affect, or maybe more significantly, you choose to let the wrong not infect every other relationship that you have, every other transaction, every other business contact, because of that one person who did something that was wrong, that was hurtful, that was stupid. And as long as you hold on to that offense, as long as you hold on to that hurt, you are giving that other person too much power. Let that stuff go. There are too many other people in this world that you can help, that you can lead, that you can serve, who want what you have to offer. Let that junk go. Now, here's something else to keep in mind. A lot of times, particularly when we've been hurt badly, forgiveness is not a one-time event. It's not like you just go, okay, I'm letting it go. And then you just go skipping through strawberry fields forever, riding your unicorn across magic rainbows. A lot of times you will have to forgive that person again. When the hurt is brought back up, when somebody else mentions that other person, when they say, oh, did you see what so-and-so did? They are awesome. You go, man, that's great. That's where you decide, you know what? I'm going to bless my enemies. I wish nothing but the best for that person. I don't feel that way, but that's what I'm saying to myself. I'm going to act my way into feeling a certain way. I'm going to do the right thing because it's the right thing until it feels like the right thing. And that is a critical thing to remember on the path to forgiveness that is a gift to yourself. Now, it's really important that we understand this do to both dynamic, because it's one thing to say, I love you, or I want the best for you. It's another thing to back it up. You know, if you're married, you understand what I'm talking about, because you better be telling your spouse, I love you. I'm just putting it out there. You better tell them. But how many of us know that it's not enough to say it? You got to actually show it. Now, one of the greatest leaders I have ever met or heard of, I just happen to be married to. Julie is a phenomenal leader in her own right. She leads a ministry called Fearless Mom that is ridiculous in its reach and helping and serving moms to love the game of motherhood. And Julie and I have been married for 27 years. And like anybody who's been married for 15 minutes, we've had our moments. But I can tell you, it's been a great ride. It is a great ride. We're having more fun in the empty nest than we ever imagined possible. But I noticed something about Julie early on in our marriage. Her personality, the way she's kind of wired up, she's not like a huge gifts girl. Like I could show up every night with jewels and flowers and whatever, and she would appreciate the gesture, but she'd be like, oh, thanks so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you. You put them over there. But now the kids need help, blah, blah, blah. What really matters to Julie is quality time, acts of service. When our kids were younger and little before the empty nest, man, if I would scoop up both the kids and take them downstairs to bathe them and get them ready for bed, and then take and put them to bed while she kind of chilled out and recovered from the day that she had just spent working with them. And I noticed a pattern that on those nights that I did that, and for days thereafter, I was set as a husband. That was what resonated with Julie. That was how she knew that what I said, I meant. I was backing it up. I don't know if most of us, I think, are either numbers people or word people. You know, if you look back at your school career, you probably gravitated more to the history and English side or the math and science side. I didn't really like either side, but I was definitely more English and history. I was kind of in that area. I remember when our daughter was growing up in school, and she's like, I like English better because like in math, there's only one answer that's right. But in English, I can write an essay that kind of looks like I know what I'm talking about. I was like, I feel you, girl. I get it. But one thing I do remember from math, particularly ninth grade algebra, the word integer. The word integer, you go back with me a little bit. The word integer means a whole number. A whole number is an integer. The same word that gives us the word integer gives us the word integrity. A person of integrity, a man or a woman, a student of integrity is a whole person all the time. They are complete. Which, by the way, if you're not married, I would just encourage you, don't date a fraction. Would somebody help me preach? This is a leadership principle that transcends arena. But to be a person of integrity means that you are a whole person, that you're the same person at work that you are at home. You're the same person at home that you are if you go to church. You're the same person. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be transparent. Transparency is reserved for a precious few. I'm completely transparent with Julie. Like there are no secrets. She knows my passwords. She can look at whatever she wants to look at anytime she wants to look at it on my computer, on TV, browsing history, whatever. But I have to be authentic with everybody. I have to be authentic with everyone. I have to be the whole Mac that I was created to be, no matter where I am. Now, I'm going to reveal and be transparent with all of that whole person with a very precious few. So be authentic with everybody, but be transparent with a precious few. Be really, really wise about who you let into your heart of hearts, who you let into your life, but be the same no matter where you are. Does that make sense? You understand the difference that I'm drawing there? You know, as we kind of think about ending today and moving into the next stage and taking what we've gotten out of today and actually putting it into practice, I think about Allen Iverson. Y'all remember Allen Iverson, the point guard for the Philadelphia 76ers? Quick as a cat, you know, had the cornrows. I mean, just had that crossover dribble that would break guys' ankles. He was unbelievable. I've never forgotten the greatest press conference in the history of the world when Allen Iverson got fined for missing practice. Larry Brown was the coach of the 76ers, legendary coach. He'd been college, incredible record, pros, incredible record, coaching this incredible talent, Allen Iverson, who had skipped practice. And he'd been fined, he'd been suspended, and when he went before the media in Philadelphia, I will never forget Allen Iverson just kind of cocking his head at the microphone and going, man, we're talking about practice. We're not talking about the game. We're talking about practice. I want you to turn to your neighbor and with passion and enthusiasm, tell him, we're talking about practice. Practice. What we actually do actually matters. We are better together. We are stronger together. We are healthier together. We are more successful together. And that is what I hope you walk out of Spur Leadership 2019 owning and committed to putting into practice, to making it a reality, not only for your life as a person of integrity, but lifting up the people around you, inspiring them, challenging them, holding them accountable, because they trust you, by the way, to being better together. This is Spur Leadership. I cannot thank you enough for being here. It is an honor to share this time with you, and we are excited about what's coming next. It's going to be fun. What's up, Michael?
Good job, sir. A little different. I kind of feel a little awkward sitting here in these chairs showing off my loafers compared to his cowboy boots. It's like,
yeah, but you went no socks. That's hardcore. That's commitment. I like that. That's great.
I don't want to answer. I do have socks on. You just can't see them.
That
make
right
it worse?
there is next level.
That
no,
makes it worse.
That's impressive.
That makes it worse. Thank you for that. That was very good. And I mean, what a day. We have had some incredible speakers. And obviously, when you come to these conferences, it is always good from the notes that we take or what we can remember, the takeaways. And we've had a lot of good takeaways today, from Jenna to Carly to Sebastian to yourself and in the breakout sessions. What would be one or two takeaways that you're going to move on with?
That's great. I think one of the things that really struck me was when Carly said that, I can't remember her exact words, but she said that reorganization's a cop-out.
Yeah.
You know, that you can do the reorg and redraw the org chart and all that kind of good stuff, but it ultimately is going to come down to the practices.
Yeah.
And you know, there have been times where our church is 21 and a half years old, so almost 22 years old, and we've gone through incredible seasons. We've had great highs and great lows and everything in between. And I just know in 22 years, you do kind of think, golly, I wonder if maybe like what we've done before. You know, when Seinfeld finished the series Seinfeld, and was going back out on the road to do stand-up, he scrapped all of his old bits and started over from scratch.
Didn't know that.
And I thought, man, that's a gutsy move. Because all of his old stuff had carried him a pretty long way. But I think as an organization grows and matures and ages and gets stronger, you have to always redefine yourself while remaining yourself.
Yeah.
What I mean is, you have to stay true to who you are, true to the vision or the calling or the purpose, whatever you want to call it, but you have to change the way that expresses itself over time. You know, when we were a church that had, 48 people meeting in the elementary school cafetorium, well, it gives me a cold chill. But when that was our church, we celebrated that, but we couldn't have partnered, for example, with Mobile Loaves and Fishes like we do now to serve, the chronically homeless or under-resourced in Austin and beyond. We couldn't have done that at that point. We couldn't have had a conference like this. So I think even today is an expression of that redefining. While it's always been part of our DNA.
Yeah.
It's just kind of redefined and reimagined as you go. But you have to stay true to who you are and be comfortable in that, and stay. Like I said, I think you have to stay authentic.
Yeah.
But you've got to stay true to who you are and you got to let other people run in their lanes.
Yeah. And it's been impressive because I think working on this, we never got the topics in great detail from any of the speakers, right? And yet the overlap that has been of today. And then
Which is such a welcome surprise, but it's
yes,
kind of like, when you give a microphone
hosting
to somebody else, you don't know what they're going to say, where they're going to go. I've been to conferences, I've hosted conferences before where you kind of have to walk back something that somebody just said, in a nice way, but you're kind of like, hey, but today was not that.
Great. Now, ending with trust. All right, question on trust.
Yes.
And having been in the marketplace and now with Spur, if trust is broken, how can it be fixed?
Man, it's a great question at the end of the day. Just in 25 words or less, how do you fix trust? I think this is the first thing I think. Number one, you have to believe. You have to really believe and think that people can change.
Yeah.
You have to assume, start with the belief that, okay, the trust that was broken is not representative of who they are or who I am exclusively. We can fix this. We can repair this. That's number one. And I think a lot of times when trust gets, sometimes forgiving someone does not mean that you're going to trust them again. It doesn't. You have to choose together to rebuild trust. Both parties, or all the parties, however many people are connected to it, have to agree to rebuild trust. And if they don't, or maybe one person decides, you know what, I can't go there again. I'm going to forgive them. I'm not going to hold on to the offense and be bitter, but I'm not going there again. Sometimes that's a healthy response. Sometimes. But if you're going to rebuild it, everybody has to be committed to the fact that people can change. Yeah. And everybody involved has to own their own stuff from the offense.
Yeah.
And that's where it begins. But then it's like Brene Brown says, it's one marble at a time.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to go buy a new jar and bring it out and set it on the counter and just go, okay, I think you can change.
Yeah.
I think I can change. I think I messed up and I want to own that. When you say I own that, you put several marbles back in the jar. I know with our kids, I made golly, so many mistakes, but I remember one time in particular telling Joe, our son, I was sorry. I apologized to him. And I said, Joe, Dad was wrong. I was right in what I said, and I said it the wrong way, and I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? And man, you just saw his eyes light up. And I thought, forgiveness, asking forgiveness, confession is a powerful, powerful trust builder.
Yeah.
when you own your stuff and really own it, and not like, I'm sorry if you misunderstood me, or I'm sorry if I offended anyone. That's not an apology. But really and truly own it. I think that goes a long way towards establishing the foundation. But then it's going to be one interaction at a time, brick by brick by brick by brick, marble by marble by marble.
And I think it's important too for us to take home that, as you just described, that sounded like it was just the two of you, mm-hmm. or the situation that could fix that or deal with that. But there are paid professionals.
Yeah.
In the corporate world, obviously, in the marriage life, whatever it may be, that can come on that journey with you or need to come on that journey with you.
They can facilitate it.
And help you manage it. I remember I had a coach a few years ago that we needed that to take us on that journey, mm-hmm. to get us through the culture shifts that we needed to do in the company.
And I think that's one of the things, too. It takes a great deal of humility
yes.
to say, I blew it. And it's amazing how liberating it is. To say I was wrong is not fatal.
Yeah.
And it can be incredibly liberating. And like I said, that I think that's kind of like tilling the soil of trust. And it makes the soil receptive to the seed, if you will, that you're going to cultivate and water and weed and do all that. I'm done with the analogy. But my point is that you just keep cultivating that.
Yeah. No, it's very true. It's very true. Spur Leadership has been around over a decade now.
Yeah. Gosh.
And so, longer than a decade ago, you're sitting at home, you're running this organization, you've got a staff, you've got a full-time job.
Yeah.
But you think, hey, I want to create this leadership program. Tell us, how did that come into where we are today?
I'm laughing. That's a great question, Mike. I think, for us as a church, our staff has always run very lean and very young, and which I wouldn't have it any other way. I love that. And at this point, I'm one of the elder statesmen on our staff, which is
yes,
weird.
You are.
Yeah. I really, and
the guy with less hair saying that, yeah.
Well, I didn't want to bring that up,
right.
But we had gone through a real sea change in our staff and had a number of people transition off and transition onto our staff. And I was really, really groping for handles on how to lead our staff through that season of change. And that was one of the reasons I asked Carly today. I said, when I asked her, you get there and there's this huge financial crisis going on, what do you do?
Yeah.
I think every leader, if you do it long enough, we're all going to get to those places where we go, I don't know what to do. I don't know. The older you get, I think the more comfortable you get with that. I do know at 52 years old, I thought I would have more figured out at this point than I do. But at that season, 10 years ago, I really came across Hebrews 10:24 again in a new way that I'd never thought of before. When I saw love and good deeds paired together, I didn't think about trust initially. I thought about leadership. And I thought, that's the key. If we can take care of our people and still produce and do good work and keep the ball moving down the field as a church, that's the essence of leadership. And I thought about that in terms of church, but then I had a cup of coffee with a good friend of mine who works at Dell, which now Dell Technologies, at the time was Dell Computer, and I ran the idea by him. And it's Steve Price, who's spoken at a number of our events and is now the worldwide director of human resources for Dell Technologies. But Steve said, he goes, Mac, that's exactly what we're wrestling with at Dell. Now, at the time, I think Dell had 60,000 employees.
Incredible.
We were a little below that. And when he said that love and good deeds worked in the world that he lived in, and I knew it would work for us in the church world, that was when I kind of felt like this was a paradigm. This was something that just works no matter where you put it into practice. It always works. Love and good deeds, community and accountability, taking care of people, and doing the work. Yeah. Those things, the great thing about it is, like what Carly said, your metrics express who you're going to be as a culture, because people are going to perform or not to those metrics that you're measuring.
Yeah.
And so that was really the genesis of it 10 years ago, 11 years ago, before we kind of went public with it. But it was out of that season of change and uncertainty and kind of leaning into it a little bit more, where we went, okay, this thing, Spur Leadership, can help a lot of people no matter where you are or what you do.
Yeah. And we've done a handful of conferences.
Yep.
Podcasts. Jesse, the first video. And I got to tell you guys, I mean, when Jesse said he came out of the shop, he literally came out of the shop. I mean, that guy had dust on him. If you weren't up close, you could see the black in his beard. There isn't normally black in his beard. But we spent the afternoon at Jesse's shooting, and that's a man's man. Oh my gosh. I grew up in Canada.
He wears socks.
Yeah, he wears socks.
Wait, you are too. Never mind. I'm sorry, I forgot.
am too, yeah. And I grew up in Canada, not around guns. And this guy's got guns everywhere. You know, most people have mulch around their trees and plants. He has rocks and pellet or gun shells, you know, with the bullet shells as mulch. And I'm going, what are we doing here? It was
brass mulch.
It was brass mulch. What a fantastic way for us to kick off. Obviously, the video podcast with someone like him. But we got some plans.
Yeah, we do.
Where are we going?
Mike, I want to ask you a question. I'm going to turn the tables on you a little bit because, you know, to me, having you come on board, leading Spur Leadership and doing that with us and with me, you and I working together, you know, talk a little bit about your background, where you come out of as you take on this role, really. And, man, talk about a baptism by fire. Mike's been on our staff for about 15 minutes.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, we got a conference coming up. Here we go.
Yeah.
And you've done a phenomenal job with it, by the way. But talk a little bit about your background and kind of how you arrived where you are right now.
Yeah. And thanks for the heads up on this one. So
I don't want you getting complacent.
No, I guess not.
It's good leadership.
It is good leadership. I graduated in 2007, and not to make it a long story, but I always wanted to be in business in the marketplace and had 2 job offers out of school. I had one at a large company up in Cleveland, Ohio, where I was going to be one of 7,000 employees, but had a relative that was near the top, so I was going to, hopefully have some wiggle room not to be employee number 6,999. Or I had a job offer back in Toronto at a small company in the money service business. And it was to be an FX dealer. And so, 6 months of pay, and then month 7 was straight commission and eat what you kill. And I decided to go back to Toronto. Less pay, but, I thought I could make a mark, learn more, be exposed to more. So I did that, and up in Toronto for about 5 years. The 2008 crisis happened. And I just went, I no longer want to be an FX dealer. The volatility, it was many stories from that.
Can I ask you a stupid question?
Yeah.
Is FX financial exchange?
Foreign exchange.
Foreign exchange.
Yeah,
See?
so we moved money.
Dumber
Sorry,
question.
yeah. We moved money around the world for people. It sounds so shady, but it was legit.
It was regulated by the government.
It wasn't in a briefcase, no.
So you were in the mafia.
Yeah. You didn't do your background checks? The Canadian mafia.
Right.
Yeah. We were buying, igloos and stuff. So having done that, we needed to raise some money. And we wanted to become a Schedule I bank. And so I was able to get myself out of the dealing role and into a management role. Fast forward, we've done 3 companies. We sold that company. We ran a company out of Australia, which we took public in 2013. And then this last company we just sold as of February of 2019, just coming in with you. But always been in the fintech, always been in the business of, trying to disrupt, I guess was the word, maybe still is the word. And so we were always trying to compete against the banks. Always wanted to work myself up the ladder and obviously try to have as much of a senior role. But in doing so, we had 2 things that my wife and I would say, we try to put into practice that, we would check in and make sure that, is this still working? One of them was I was always on the road. Yeah. And a short flight for me was London, England. Right, so 350,000 miles a year in travel, and not seeing my girls that much that are 6 and 4. We just went, what's it worth? And then I remember coming home after the IPO in 2013, and we IPO'd in Australia, and I spent 5 months on the road where we were flying my daughter and wife to come see us where we were, Australia, London, England, wherever it may be. And I remember coming home, Lori gives me a hug, and she goes, I'm so proud of you, but just know that we'd rather have you here than the extra dollar in the bank account.
Wow.
And I went, well, that's the way to deflate me. And so about 7-8 months ago, we said, maybe this is enough trying to be in the big business of the corporate world. And so we started some of our own businesses and have some of that coming on. But just knew that we wanted to surround ourselves with people that were like mine, that were on a similar mission, that we could, attach ourselves to or start and partner with. And then you and I sat down.
Yeah. I think one of the things that's been fun over the 10 years of Spur Leadership is the opportunity that we had. One of the things that I've learned, and I feel like I should have known this, but I've learned it, and I think it's one of those things is going to be more and more a part of Spur Leadership, is not only did we have the opportunity to bring in some speakers who really know what they're talking about, who have a wealth of experience and expertise that can help and serve people, it was also a great opportunity for people who are people of faith to connect their faith to their work. I can't tell you the number of people that I've had coffee with who've been like, I just don't know if what I'm doing matters.
Yeah.
And to be able to sit down across a table and say, hey, look, you don't have to, for example, quit your job, sell everything, and go be a missionary for your job to matter. I'm not trying to add something to your to-do list. I'm saying be more deliberate about what you're already doing and look at it as an opportunity to serve people that, by the way, you get paid for. Nothing wrong with that. But it's also an opportunity to serve and build into people's lives in a way that really, really matters. And when you have that conversation with people, it's so much fun because you kind of like, you can physically see the light go on. And all of a sudden they're kind of, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because we all have parts of our job that we don't like. Some don't like their job, and I understand that's out there. But most of the time, it's because we're not looking at it through a big enough lens of purpose and serving other people. We don't have to change jobs to get that kind of meaning and significance out of our work.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's been one of the biggest, I think, surprises, blessings, and it's really exciting to see that happen for more and more people.
And there's some people in the room that was with us in this last company, and when we've moved these people from around the country and other countries to move to Austin as we made this our headquarter for the U.S. business. And I think one of them came up to me and said, man, you seem different. And I took that in a good and a bad way, right? You seem different. Like, you just seem to be doing something that is very similar to what I was doing, working with people, managing, finances, doing sales stuff, right? You were selling people to come to the conference, whatever it may be. But I'm doing it for different reasons now.
Right.
And man, it is different, right? And you and I text a lot and just going, this is fun. And I hope that's what they recognize. They're just going, not to say that me and that world will never happen again, but the stresses or whatever.
Wait, what?
Was I just think that I was doing it at times, not all of it, for the wrong reasons, selfish reasons, whatever that may be.
Listen, we all have to fight that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm like, it's possible for a preacher to do what he does for selfish reasons. Yeah. Believe me, everybody likes to hear, man, that was a great sermon, and you just, that is so seductive. Yeah. You just have to be really careful. I kind of feel like what I get to do in one little respect. I'll just say this: you're never as good as they say you are, or as bad as they say you are, and that kind of helps keep your feet on the ground and understand where you really fit.
Yeah. And so we went down this, as you and I do, a little bit of a trail here, but back to where we are going with Spur. I can't tell you, we are so excited about the momentum we have behind us. This conference is just the start. All right, this is a conference second time in 2 years, which in the podcast have been, little more frequent, or less frequent, I should say, in compared to what we're about to do,
Right.
and the people that we have lined up. I mean, if people think that Jesse James that's our peak, we got a lot more coming, and we're really excited about.
I think one of the things, and I appreciate you asking the question, the one thing I would leave you with is this, that what we're doing is really and truly designed to help. Yeah. We want to serve you. So we would ask, as we go forward and as we roll out new things and new opportunities or whatever, anything you can do to help us put this in front of more people is a massive, massive contribution that you're making. I kind of feel like what happened here today was bigger than any of us. And I think about, Sebastian was sick, and I'm so grateful to him for making the trip, but I'm going to attribute his read of the room of 70 people to his illness. It's not just the 250, 300 people who are here on campus today. It's the people you represent. It's the ripple effect out of what happens today that you take back to where you work day in and day out, and the difference that you're going to make in those people's lives because of what you were a part of today. And that's the part that gets me fired up. That's the part that I lose a little bit of sleep over in a really good way. So I think where we go is really going to be largely dependent upon you. We're going to do everything we can to get more and more resources, more and more stuff into your hands that helps you do what you do every single day. And anything you can do to help us get that word out will mean more to us than we can tell you. And I think that's really where the magic lies. Yeah. That's really where it happens as it ripples out in concentric circles from your life, from us, and everything that we're about. And with that, we just want to tell you thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to talking to you in the future. God bless you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it, man.